Good morning, everyone. Patty Hajdu, the Minister of Health, Canada's Minister of Health, is, quote, keeping up with my French lessons several times per week to make sure I can best serve the Franco-Ontarian communities in my riding and all Canadians. I do my French lessons in the morning before breakfast. Duolingo. I've almost got 1,000 days. I'm not doing too badly. But I don't know that this is what the Minister of Health should be focusing on or focusing her tweets on. It's not like the long-term care homes have been infected by a deadly virus that have killed a disproportionate amount of them on her watch. It's not like the economy's been decimated because of a virus that has been allowed in because, well, federally, we still haven't closed borders, and we're not going to. And, you know, they didn't do anything for months for people landing from foreign areas or infected areas specifically, talking about what to do about the virus. Nobody tested. Nobody was in the airport, and that's continuing to this day. And, you know, she's got other stuff to deal with, right? More important stuff, like her French lessons. I think that's ratioed as well. Oh, no, not quite. Anyway, here is moving into the news of the day. Now, Mr. Trudeau and Mr. Morneau can do no wrong, clearly. It is the Minister of Color, Barty Shager, that is obviously the one to blame for this scandal, right? The junior minister who had to go through 2 different departments and the finance minister to get the money out to the program, et cetera, et cetera. That's who's to blame for this. But we'll get there. Here's 680 News, and it says the Privy Council's office is saying it's launching an independent review of allegations that Governor General Payette mistreated past and current employees at Rideau Hall. This is a distraction. This is nothing but a distraction. Here's another distraction. This is weird. Yesterday I saw Trudeau tweet, we're very sad to see Mr. Vance go and blah, 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 blah. And I put in bold letters, Vice Admiral Mark Norman. And because of just how poorly the Trudeau government and Vance treated Mr. Norman, they created a situation where they didn't use his name in documents. So freedom of information requests or anything that had to do with Mr. Norman wouldn't show up in those requests, because if you didn't request the pet name they gave to him, and I can't remember what it is now, but I reported on it before. If you didn't ask for that, then you wouldn't get back Mark Norman. And it was inconsistent too, right? Like sometimes it was the chief. I'll just say that's what it is, but that's not what it was. And sometimes they just use chief, right? So like even if you found out the pet name, you wouldn't get everything, right? So sneaky stuff. And Obama did this too. The Obama administration did this kind of garbage as well. Misspelling names and stuff. Comey was corny, right? Because the M and the RN in printed documents look the same. So it's very sneaky, but you wouldn't know unless you knew, right? So hides documents from the press. It prevents things from being found by freedom of information, and it's not explicitly illegal, right? You could just say, "Oh, it was a typo. Who knew? I didn't know I was doing that. I didn't realize. I thought it said Comey, but it says corny, eh? Crazy." So here's Don Martin, and this is another distraction, I think. I really do. Don Martin, by almost any measure, the Mark Norman disaster, the Afghan memorial controversy, fighting to re-equip the armed forces, boosting morale, or stamping out sexual harassment, he was a failed chief of defense staff. No loss in Jonathan Vance retiring. And yeah, there was a never-ending string of controversy with Mr. Vance. So don't let the door hit you on the way out, sir. Bye. Here's Global News. Global News lays off 70 due to fallen revenue and inability to compete. Union and Global News execs to request government bailout. In other news, get woke, go broke, I think is the statement. But isn't it interesting? Because it's not like Canadians are sick of news. It's not like people aren't talking about things. It's not like people aren't devouring news and using links to prove their points and all this other stuff. But you know what's happening? They're sick and tired of bullshit news. That's what's happening. They're sick and tired of liberal propaganda garbage being shoved down their throat. They're sick and tired of being told lies. And I think that's what's being reflected here, right? And, that's terrible for those journalists. If you stop lying, maybe those jobs won't disappear. You being the news media, right? And when you purposely take a stance that is supportive of terrorists or Marxists, right? Without reporting the whole width and breadth of it, without reporting the whole thing, then you're just doing propaganda. And that's what global news has been engaged in a long time. It is making stories about what they want the narrative to be about. And I know that's just my opinion. And I know that I'm doing punditry here. I'm telling you my opinion about the news. But I don't think the news should be about opinion. I think the news should be hard facts, right? This person went here and did this. This is what they said, direct quote. That's what I would much prefer, rather than this flavored news we've got, right? Like it's very, very concerning what's happening to our news. But that's been happening for decades. That's been happening for a long time. Consolidation, the limiting of opinion, the Overton window closing. I've talked about it a lot. It's all part of the same problem, right? Okay, back to the news. They desperately want this to go away. It is not going away. So now they need a fall person. And I said it's going to be Barty Shager. And that's who I think it's going to be. And it looks like they're circling the wagons, to use some of the language I've read in here today, around Morneau. And I think that's accurate. I think they're going to protect him. It looks like if they admit Morneau needs to step down, then that would be tacitly admitting that Trudeau also needs to step down, because it's that big a deal. So if that happens, right, if one goes, I think the other goes, right? So wild. I don't know. So here we go. We're going to go through all of this current WE stuff. The WE charity scandal tidbit seems to have been conveniently forgotten about. Craig Kielburger was a member of the advisory board that organized the 2019 election leadership debate. Man, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, right? Or I've heard we needed Trudeau for money. Trudeau needed we for votes and access to voters and access to voter information, right? They were targeting mushy ridings with apparently we, and this is uncorroborated from yesterday's testimony, but that's what the person was saying, that we was using and giving the data to the Liberals. Wild, right? I mean, this is like a big scandal. And like I said, easy to understand, the one that keeps giving, because it just keeps getting deeper and bigger. But they're gonna throw Chager under the bus. We got rid of that one. Dismissed from cabinet. You go sit independent. I think that may be where we're going. Here's Justin Ling, and Justin Ling is a freelance investigative journalist, and he says we has served Canada Land and reporter Jaron Kerr with libel notice. They sent out a press release demanding an apology from Sun columnist Brian Lilly. They sent a letter warning Kate Bahan to stop criticizing their organization. This isn't normal. So yeah, like this is from yesterday at around this time in the morning. So they are getting litigious around people talking about their organization, and the Jesse Brown, I think is his last name, was testifying at Parliament at this committee as well, talking about we and what he found. I thought Jesse did a good job, and again, I said to him on Twitter that him and I don't agree on politics, but I thought he did a really good job testifying because he stayed all within the facts. He didn't speculate at all, and I thought that was very, very good. And he did a good job articulating what we was doing without getting into even really how he felt about it. So I mean, yeah, like he did good work on this. So kudos to him for really kind of bringing this to light and lighting the fire here, because this is a big story. Okay, here is Brian Lilly asking Pierre Poilievre. This is a call-in question. Poilievre goes off. I think the whole thing's worth watching, so we're going to watch it all, and then I'll read you the Brian Lilly piece based on the question. Here we go.
Yesterday, Minister Morneau, while saying that he had made a mistake in not recusing himself and not paying for the travel earlier, also tried to say that really the awarding of this contract, not to We Charity, but to We Charity Foundation, was the responsibility of Minister Bardish Chagger. This is a minister without a department, so perhaps, Pierre, you're the best to answer it given your cabinet experience. Could you ever have put through a $912 million project by yourself without the support of the finance minister and the full knowledge and backing of the finance minister when you were in cabinet?
I feel badly for Minister Chagger. I think it's disgusting the way she's being treated. The fact that these men would blame her for their conduct. She is a junior minister who reports to the Heritage Department. This is an expenditure by the Employment Department, approved under authorities granted to the Minister of Finance, and directed out of the PMO. The men responsible for this are Bill Morneau and Justin Trudeau. They accepted thousands of dollars of free gifts from this organization. They directed a $912 million nonsensical contribution to this organization. And for them to try and blame a junior minister who had no authority to do any of this is absolutely disgusting, and it symbolizes everything that is wrong with the rot at the head of this government.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with all that. And it's very, very interesting, the pattern that this government continually goes to. Jody Wilson-Raybould, Jane Philpott, there were others, who weren't reelected. Jane Philpott wasn't reelected. I can't remember. Cesar Chavannes. And I always said her name wrong. But regardless, there were other people who were caught up in this, who are the people that this government pretends to champion, right? It's your actions or your words, right? Like, what is... Anyway, here's Brian Lilly's piece. Liberals look to place blame anywhere but Morneau. I don't know if she's realized it yet, but Bardish Chagger is being set up for a big fall. The junior minister in Justin Trudeau's government has been called out by both backbench MPs and Finance Minister Bill Morneau as the person behind the problematic WE contract. Quote, I was not the minister responsible. As I outlined in my prepared remarks, that was Minister Chagger, Morneau told members of the Finance Committee Wednesday, with a link. As to your second question on who signed the document, I'm actually not aware of that. My assumption would be Minister Chagger. Later in testimony, he was asked by backbench Toronto Liberal MP Julie, I'm not going to try that, to clarify this again. Can you just make it clear for the committee that it was the responsibility of Minister Chagger to actually sign the final contract, and it wasn't with yourself or the Finance Department? Dershowitz asked. I think that's how you say that. Your assertion is correct, Morneau said. These aren't the only liberals trying to make people know Chagger's the one to blame. It's yet another example of Trudeau's ultra-woke feminist government throwing another minority woman under the bus just to keep wealthy white guys happy. See, I don't like playing this game, because you play their game, you're going to lose. You're going to play, if you play their game, you're going to lose. But I mean, I agree with Brian that you have to bring, if they want to talk about race as the forefront of everything, then you need to meet fire with fire. So I don't know, right? I don't know how you deal with this. Back to this. It looks like a repeat of what they did with Jody Wilson-Raybould. Quote, I feel badly for Minister Chagger, Conservative MP Pierre Poilievre said Thursday. It's disgusting the way she's being treated. He's not wrong. Chagger is the Minister for Diversity, Youth and Inclusion. That's a ministry without a department, and technically, Chagger reports to Heritage Minister Stephen Guilbeault. The program that would have seen we get this $912 million contract was one of the Employment and Social Development Department, which is under two ministers, Carla Quattro and Ahmed Hassan. There is very little Chagger could have done on this file without the ministers above her, including Morneau, giving direction. The men responsible for this are Bill Morneau and Justin Trudeau, Poilievre said. For them to try and blame a junior minister who had no authority to do any of this is absolutely disgusting. I scroll down a bit. I normally dismiss, that's Brian, demands for ministers to resign as political theater, but not this time. Morneau is the one responsible for spending, and he was ultimately the one responsible for the mess. Let's look at the facts. WE's headquarters are in Morneau's riding. No contribution or contract of this size would go to an organization in this senior minister's riding without their knowledge and approval. Morneau's daughter was working for WE at the time, and he voted on and signed the contract. He supported this contract despite deep family ties that, including taking trips, as well as his wife and daughter being deeply involved. Taking free trips is in direct violation of the Conflict of Interest Act, which means he broke the law, while Morneau tried to convince the committee and the Canadian public that not paying for the trip was an oversight. WE has confirmed in a statement that the trip was a complimentary one, the kind they give to big donors. So the Liberals, I scroll down, the Liberals appear to be circling the wagons around their finance minister, with several making supportive statements on Thursday. We'll look at that in a minute. They should be publicly backing Morneau. They shouldn't be publicly backing Morneau. They should be calling the PM and telling Trudeau that he needs a new finance minister. That is what would happen in an ethical government. Doesn't look like we have one of those. Bardish Chagger should watch her back. I agree. Here's a minister. I'm not going to play this, but here is Van Kayak, and he's a member of Parliament for Milton, and he is a kayaker. He says, quote, I absolutely stand by him. Liberal MP Van Kayak says he has 100% faith in Finance Minister Bill Morneau, and this is to Vasi Kapolis at Power and Politics, right? And here is Minister Morneau's here a picture from the trip. It says July 11th. Bill Morneau's press secretary told Brian Lilly both trips were paid for. In both cases, the Morneau family covered all associated costs and expenses, but Morneau directly contradicted that claim yesterday when he said that, oh yeah, we forgot to pay for this $41,000, and then he paid for it. You know, like you do. If you just have $41,000 sitting in your bank account, you just write that check really quick. No problem, right? Easy peasy. The brakes cost how much? Okay, back to this. For those people trying to say the Morneau trip wasn't a vacation, that it was a humanitarian trip, here's the flyer for the tour. So here's the flyer for the tour if you're interested, right? Looks very nice. It's a $4,000 American trip divided by 41,000 plus conversion, right? I don't know how many people. I think probably 8. There you go. Recharge on your humanitarian trip, right? This is according to, which tweet? According to this tweet, right? So this is the same one. So I'm not 100% sure. I can't verify it 100%, but it's the same cost as listed by Morneau in the documents. Here is National News Watch, and this is actually a Blacklock's piece, so we'll look at the original. And it says, agent to detail Trudeau's fees. A Toronto talent agency has until July 29th to surrender records detailing all speaking fees paid to members of the Trudeau family. The Prime Minister, as an MP, said he collected nearly $300,000 in fees. It's important disclosures are made. And there's more to that story. But it's interesting. I guess there's movement on this. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. I think people are kind of waiting for something to happen, and nothing's going to happen. Like, unless the government, unless the Bloc and the Conservatives and the NDP come together and say, we're going to bring this government down because of this corruption, nothing's going to happen. And I haven't seen anything that says that's bubbling, right? Like, and we've seen a lot of, this is much bigger than $16 orange juice, right? Make no mistake. So, but nothing's going to happen, right? I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm terribly, terribly wrong. Here's another example of how transparent and open this government is. Here is Todd Battis, and he says, Ottawa and Nova Scotia announce a 3-person independent review into the Nova Scotia shooting. Families of victims, among others, wanted a public inquiry. Okay, this is a long, angry, ranting article about how they're using review and not a public inquiry. This draws a lot of really clear lines between which one is which. The next article is much more concise. I'm going to read the next article because it's much more concise, but I'm going to read a couple of pieces from this one, okay? We might as well give it a name, this odd feeling of having been heard, understood, and ignored by government. Right? This is the Maclean's article, Nova Scotia Shooting Review and the Deafness of Government. It's familiar enough sensation after all. It's not that the lines of communication have broken down. It's not that the message isn't getting through. It's not even that the governments are inert or inactive. On the contrary, they're whirlwinds of action. They're just doing something else besides what circumstances warrant and populations demand. Yeah, I mean, that's true. I scroll down. The article goes through what the difference is between the public review and the public inquiry. It talks about the Public Inquiries Act. It's not a high. Okay, here's the Nova Scotia Public Inquiries Act. It's 6 paragraphs long. 2 of them ensure that inquiries will have the power to compel witnesses to testify under oath. That's central. And the women's group, and as the women's groups put it, quote, we wish to express our grave concern about and opposition to the use of any process for the federal provincial response to the Nova Scotia mass shooting which is not fully open and public, or which does not mandatorily compel the pertinent institutions and state actors to provide relevant information. So that's who asked for a public inquiry. Who asked for an independent review panel? Given Fury credits for this month, when I asked him, he admitted nobody had. 0 people. The rickety claptrap Fury and Blair announced will be backed up by stern letters from both ministers organizing organizations they're responsible for to cooperate with the review. That list includes RCMP, the Canadian Firearms Program, the Canadian Border Services Agency, the Criminal Intelligence Services, CSIS, and National Alert Ready Program. So this is no teeth, basically. There's no ability to compel and have people under oath. There's no ability to really hold people accountable. There's no ability to make sure that officers who were at the shooting now will continue to be employed and not, say, retire or move to Vancouver or be moved out of Nova Scotia, right? Like there's a lot of problems with this. Also, the report comes back in August 2021. Right? So, I mean, like, useless. Okay, here's MSN reporting. Nova Scotia mass shooting review format criticized as lacking powers and transparency. Ottawa and Nova Scotia have announced a review of the April mass shooting that left 22 people and the gunman dead, but the process drew criticism from victims' relatives as being too secretive and lacking the necessary legal powers. Interim and final reports will be presented next year to Federal Public Safety Minister Bill Blair and Provincial Justice Minister Mark Fury before being made public. However, little, if any, of the review announced Thursday will be conducted in open hearings, and lawyers for interested parties won't be able to cross-examine witnesses. The review panel terms of reference don't contain provisions to compel witnesses to speak under oath, and they specify that information collected in the preparation of this report shall be kept confidential. Despite calls from victims' relatives for the hearings to be transparent and under oath, Fury said the government opted for a quicker process that he said will achieve a similar result. Don't worry about it. It'll come out the same. I scroll down. Without proper and thorough questioning, the panel will be left with incomplete and untested evidence upon which to base its decision, Pinero wrote. He said Fury and Blair have hidden behind the notion of a trauma-free process to exclude the full participation of the families under the guise of protecting them from further trauma. Quote, "This is not how the families wish to be treated. I know that Minister Fury has spoken with the families, so he must know that they want to participate and not to be protected by an incomplete process," he said. The families, along with groups that support women facing domestic violence, have expressed repeated frustrations with the RCMP handling of the shooting and the secrecy in the months that followed. Nick Beaton, the husband of a continuing care assistant who was killed on her way to work April 19th, has questioned why emergency alerts weren't issued after the shooter left the Portapique area, where 13 people were killed on the night of April 18th. It is also unclear, I scroll down, how the Gentrists managed to slip through a police perimeter around Portapique or why further perimeters weren't created. The Mounties have also not provided full details of how the attacker came to own at least 4 replica police vehicles, including one with a light bar and precise RCMP paint job he drove on the days of the killings. In addition, there are questions about why more wasn't done to investigate previous reports of illegal gun ownership and domestic violence by Wortman. The RCMP has stated he began his massacre after a violent dispute with his girlfriend. Also, why did he get $475,000 from Brinks? Isn't that an RCMP how they pay their informants? Was he an informant? Why are we not having any investigation? Oh, did I answer my own question? And the last little piece here, Vice Admiral Mark Norman. I talked at the top of the show how people misspell names, and that was proven. They did that, and the council, this woman here, I remember covering this when this came out. She gave a press conference talking about this and was incredulous that it happened. She was like, I can't believe this. And taking to task the bureaucracy that allowed this to happen, because it was ordered, right? Like that was how they were told to speak about this person in internal documents. So there were it was referred to criminal proceedings, and nothing's happened. Investigation. It was referred for investigation, and since then, nothing. Here's the Ottawa Citizen that says, investigation into DND's withholding of documents in Vice Admiral Norman's case bounced around. No one charged. Oh, man. I guess you guys didn't forget yet? No? Okay, well, maybe we'll just bounce it around for another year and a half, and then we'll have another pandemic and maybe another closure. Maybe your business will be destroyed, maybe whatever, and then maybe you'll forget. That's how this is being played, right? They circle the wagons of the people responsible, and they throw somebody under the bus, and Canadians move on like it's just okay. I don't, and not that I don't know how to fight this, but I was talking the other day about how there's a specific attack that if you don't have, as a movement, if you don't have a response to this specific attack, then you don't have a movement. Because once you reach a certain level of influence, then you'll get shut down in this way. Number one, they'll target a leader and they'll discredit him. They'll call him racist or her, or discredit them in whatever way they can. But racist is a favorite because it doesn't have to be proven, and they'll just talk about something until they find the thing that you disagree with and wiggle more about it, right? Number two is they will demonetize you. So they'll go after your job or they'll go after your fundraising. Number three is they will person you or cut off your access to advertising and other left-leaning properties. So Faith Goldie is the one who who kind of pioneered this, or they pioneered this on, but once she got to a certain level and she wanted to buy ads on Rogers or Bell, they said, no, she's too racist. We can't do that. That would hurt our image. Despite the CRTC laws that say you have to give equal time to candidates. And nobody questioned it. There was no legal challenge, whatever. And then number four in the attack is exactly the next step here. They actually sued Faith Goldie for daring to do what she did. So, and she was ordered to pay legal costs, etc., because of her mayoral run, essentially. And so they will do this to anybody who starts to get enough traction. They will systemically and incrementally destroy that person and or movement in that way. I've watched it happen over the last 2.5 years. That's exactly what's happening. That's what is happening. And if you don't have a counter, if you don't have a way to overcome those attacks, both for local people, like if you're starting a new political party, and I'm even talking for the Conservatives, like, you are going to need to deal with this because they are going to call you racist. It is the same attack, exactly the same one. And so be prepared, because if you don't have an answer to these 4 things, you don't have anything. You don't have the ability to coalesce a movement. You won't be allowed. You understand what I'm saying? Look at Portland. Look at the Antifa riots. Look at the Antifa presence at any Bernier event. It is coordinated. It is planned. They have a plan. If you don't, you're behind the 8 ball. Sorry. That's just how it is. Okay, that's enough for me today. 26 minutes. Goodness me. All right. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com. Check out CanadaReport.co. Check out SpeakingMoistly.co. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. I thought my mouse